I thank the gentleman for yielding. It's appropriate that my colleague from Maryland, the distinguished Anthony Brown, is presiding, having served in Iraq and served in the U.S. Army for a 30-year stint. Madam Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Colonel Speaker, Congressman Speaker, I want to thank my friend, Representative Crow, for his leadership on this issue and in offering this legislation. Representative Crow, like Congressman Brown, Speaker Brown, is one of the members of this House from a new generation of service who wore the uniform of our country in the post-9/11 conflicts. These veterans of the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, like Representative Crow, understand what we must do to support our friends who stood with us, who risked their lives and the lives of their families with their American partners. The mission of our armed forces in Afghanistan over the past 20 years has been clear, although very extended. Destroy the terrorists who attacked us on 9/11 and deny al-Qaeda a safe haven from which to threaten global security in our country. Today, Osama bin Laden is dead and al-Qaeda has been routed. Terrorism, however, has not gone away. Our troops are now coming home. The fate of the Afghan people will surely be determined by them, with our help, with us standing by. America will continue to support the Afghan government and its security forces, but it's up to them to show the Taliban that there is no military solution and that their resolve is evident by their defense of their nation. As American personnel return from Afghanistan, that country's civil war will continue, and we cannot leave our Afghan partners behind. We talk about leaving no American behind. That is an absolutely essential premise as we send our men and women into harm's way. Nor should we leave behind any of those who facilitated our efforts, who stood with us, who risked their own lives and put themselves in jeopardy. No one has any illusions about what the Taliban would do if they had their way and what they will do in those places they already control. They will take it out, and they will, in fact, literally take out those who stood with us and facilitated our efforts. There can be no doubt the punishment they would inflict on Afghans who stood along the United States and our allies. We can only imagine the horrors that would befall their families in retribution. This legislation recognizes that these Afghan allies have earned safety in our country for themselves and for their loved ones. It would expand the visa program and expedite processing to help ensure there's a path to America for Afghans who worked side by side with our troops, our diplomats, our development professionals, and our partner forces in carrying out our missions there. While President Biden is already taking executive action to bring some of these allies here, legislation is needed to ensure that all of them can make it safely out of harm's way. It should be said, of course, that they will all be vetted to assure that, in fact, their coming to the United States will be consistent with the security of our country and our people. I urge my colleagues to vote for this bill today in a very bipartisan way. This is not about Democrats. It's not about Republicans. It is about an effort that Republican and Democratic administrations pursued and received help in doing so. Each vote is not only an assent for this sound policy, but a gesture of our deep appreciation for the service of our allies. Let this vote remind the world that our country's steadfast foundation, our highest ideal, remains our bonds of friendship, excuse me, loyalty and trust. Let us remind our friends and foes alike that Americans keep faith with our allies. And let us practice that in this body and at the White House. I ask my colleagues, Democrats and Republicans alike, vote for this bill. We can argue about differences of opinion on our effort in Afghanistan, but when we do something, whether we argue one side or the other, when we ask people to help us in that effort, help us, America, our men and women in uniform in harm's way, when we ask those to help us, it is important for us to keep the faith with those who do. Vote yes. I yield back the balance.